Hello, and welcome to another episode of PodcastDX, the show that brings you interviews with people just like you, whose lives were forever changed by a medical diagnosis.
I'm Lita.
I'm Ron.
And I'm the guinea pig.
Collectively, we are the hosts of PodcastDX. This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, and never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast.
Now, on future episodes, we have many interesting people to speak with about a wide variety of different medical conditions and diagnoses. But on this episode, we will be discussing a rare set of disorders that fall under the category of Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, which we will abbreviate from this point forward as EDS.
EDS are a group of connective tissue disorders that can be inherited and are varied both in how they affect the body and in their genetic causes. They are generally characterized by joint hypermobility, that is, joints that stretch further than normal, skin hyperextensibility, again, skin that can be stretched further than normal, and tissue fragility. There are 13 subtypes, each one being diagnosed through genetic testing. The hypermobile type does not have a genetic marker identified just yet. This type is diagnosed by a physician using something called the Brighton scale, which includes a variety of tests to give reference to the amount of hypermobility involved in the patient. The connective tissue of a person with EDS is not structured the way it should be. Some or all of the tissue in the EDS-affected body can be pulled beyond normal limits, which causes damage. Connective tissue can be found almost anywhere. It can be found in the skin, the muscles, tendons, in the ligaments, the blood vessels, the organs, and in the gums, the eyes, and so on. You get the picture.
That's right, Ron. I bet you got that right off the EDS Society website.
Was it that obvious? I wanted to make sure that we were giving the most accurate definition to the listeners out there. The link for EDS website, along with more detailed information regarding EDS, can be found on our website, PodcastDX.com.
Well, now that we know the definition of EDS, I guess it's time to point out the actual symptoms that a person with EDS experiences. The first is typically joint hypermobility, loose or unstable joints which are prone to frequent dislocations and or subluxations, joint pain, hyperextensible joints, they move beyond the joint's normal range, and early onset of osteoarthritis.
Lita, what's the difference between a dislocation and subluxation?
Well, a dislocation is defined as the separation of a human body's two bones from a joint or area where the two bones come together. In time, if treated incorrectly, it can lead to ligament or nerve damage, which will hinder the patient's body movements. A partial dislocation is referred to at times as a subluxation. This is the result of an incomplete separation of the bones that come together at the joints.
Wow, either way, they both sound pretty painful.
They sure do. Pain is a huge problem with EDS. It can also turn into a chronic, early onset, debilitating musculoskeletal pain similar to fibromyalgia. Another common issue with EDS is the skin-related problems. It's very common to have fragile skin that tears or bruises easily. Bruising may be severe. Severe scarring, slow and poor wound healing, even following a surgery. Scars can reopen after you think they were healed. Other problems can occur within the body due to lack of collagen and or ligament support. Things like frequent hernias, digestive problems, mitral valve prolapse, scoliosis, uterine fragility, and gum disease.
That certainly is an incredible array of symptoms. And this disorder is not curable, but it is managed with medication, physical therapy, and rest. So now that we have laid some of the background for our listeners at home, it is time to introduce today's guest, who unfortunately deals with EDS on a daily basis. Our own co-host here at PodcastDX, Jean Marie. Can you please explain a little bit about your journey with EDS?
Sure. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I had some issues with my joint stability and such for some time. When I was little, I was always very bendy, and my hip will go out of joint just walking, and my shoulders come out of joint several times, and I've had some other issues, but I've had some severe problems with it as well, but most of my issues were later in life.
So the first symptoms, is that when you were much younger, you said, about your hip?
Well, I would say that although I recognized that there was something going on, I didn't understand how complex and difficult the situation was, and that I had EDS until much later in life, in my 30s.
Is it common for people with EDS to get a diagnosis of fibromyalgia?
Sure. I mean, you have joint issues, and joint pain is often common in EDS, so you may be diagnosed with fibromyalgia. But it's actually a connective tissue issue when it comes to EDS. And you could also have an issue with your vascular system, which is a subset of EDS.
Okay. And how do gastrointestinal problems, irritable bowel or GERD, how do those play a part with EDS?
Well, since your gastrointestinal system is comprised of connective tissue, it can be affected by EDS. So, and your nerves are also surrounded by connective tissue. So, since your gastrointestinal system works on the
pulsing of the muscles that move the product through the gastro system, right?
Right. That's all influenced by your nerves, and it's not something that you can control. It's an autonomic function,
okay,
and it's controlled by your nerves. So if your nerves are affected by your EDS, then your gastrointestinal symptoms are affected by that as well. And did I mention brain fog? Brain fog is a big part of EDS.
Yes, I know.
Well, I know your symptoms have changed over the years. This is based on surgeries, medication changes, et cetera, et cetera. How would you say that EDS affects your lifestyle right now?
Well, I have to make different modifications and accommodations for EDS. I have to take into account that for example, my hip might come out of joint, and I do utilize different things to try to reduce the number of incidents I have.
Okay. Well, since this is EDS Awareness Month, as you know, are you up for that EDS challenge that they've been talking about?
Nope.
Good. Let's do a lightning round. I'll ask the questions, and you'll have 15 seconds to answer before I go on to the next one.
Great.
Ron, you'll keep time. You ready?
Nope.
I certainly am. Whenever you're ready.
Jean said she's not ready.
Well, you're ready or not.
No, that's right. Okay, question 1. What type do you have?
Hypermobile.
And when were you diagnosed?
Several years ago, before my cranial-cervical fusion in New York.
Okay. Do you have any comorbidities?
Yes, I have POTS, which we discussed on a prior episode. I get migraines. I have several hernias. I have an issue with my gastroparesis. Say that 3 times fast. I have thyroid disorders, tinnitus in my ears, cranial-cervical settling, and cranial-cervical instability, which has been repaired with a number of different titanium accessories. Syncopes, lipoedema, latex sensitivity. I get PVCs with my heart. I have celiac disease, and I have difficulty swallowing, just to name a couple of related issues.
Hey, Ron, I think we have a client here that we can use for a lot of future podcasts.
No. There are many other people that want to get on the show.
Okay, all right. Question number 4. Do you have any mobility aids that you use?
I do. Some are unusual, but it's difficult, for example, for me to squeeze a bottle. So when it comes to toiletry products and things of that nature, I use a pump.
Okay.
Because that makes my life much easier, and I don't have to worry about my fingers going out of joint. I also make sure that I have trekking poles to assist when I'm walking, and if need be, I also use a wheelchair when that comes.
Too much walking?
Yeah, when walking becomes too much. I wear very comfortable shoes that offer a great deal of support, and I just try to take it easy and rest.
Okay. What do you use for pain management?
Anything I can. I've taken everything from fentanyl to oxycodone, and I have recently submitted my application for medical marijuana for the state of Illinois. So I'm looking forward to trying that as well. And then I also use things like distraction, music. I'll read books, listen, watch movies, spend time with my family, spend time in the garden, and I try to alleviate my pain through other techniques as well.
And pet therapy.
Oh, and pet therapy, yes.
Can't forget Buddy and Gigi.
Nope.
Have you had any surgeries due to EDS?
Yes. When walking, my ankle, the tendons and ligaments tore off my ankle, so they had to be repaired, and I have not yet had my other ankle repaired, but there's a similar situation there. And I also had a craniocervical stabilization procedure to try to keep my neck stretched to its full height, and it added a nice little inch to my height.
Okay. Have you had any hospital stays?
Yep. 1 or 2, variety of reasons.
What types of specialists do you have?
I have a specialist for everything from my vision. So I have a neuro-ophthalmologist straight down to my toes, and I have an orthopedist that works specifically on ankle repairs.
Okay. What is your funniest EDS story?
Before I knew I had EDS, I would entertain people by moving my hair around, and it looks like it's a wig because I can move it so much because of the flexibility. So it's a little bit unusual.
Excuse me. What was your worst doctor's experience?
I had an orthopedic surgeon tell me that my shoulder blade was fine because I hadn't fractured my clavicle, which I didn't realize. In order to hurt your shoulder blade, you have to fracture your clavicle, but I don't think that's the case. And indeed, I needed extensive repair to my shoulder blade and had to have 2 major procedures for that.
Okay. And what was your best doctor's experience?
I have amazing GPs that juggle all of the specialists that I have, and they're able to consolidate everything and handle all of my new and unusual conditions.
Okay, so you say the GPs would be the best?
Yes.
Okay. Do you consider she's doing pretty good on timing.
Yes, she is.
Do you consider yourself...
Especially since I forgot where I put my notes. Was it supposed to be off the cuff? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself disabled?
No. I may be differently abled.
Have you experienced ableism?
Is that like Canaan ableism, or I don't know what ableism is.
This was one of the questions on the
assuming
challenge.
I don't know. I do know that when I'm sitting in using my wheelchair, sometimes people don't look at me or talk to me. They'll talk to whoever is assisting me at that time, and I find that disconcerting. And that I've had issues in certain situations where I can't speak to someone at a desk because the desk is so high, and when going on like a tour of a museum, it's difficult because you're trying to see everything. It's just there's challenges in that regard, but nothing too horrific.
Okay. What is something that you wish everyone understood about EDS?
Oh, about EDS.
Yeah.
Because you really do have to narrow that down. Okay. That you can't necessarily see what's wrong. So if I am parking in utilizing a handicap parking place, it might be because my hip has popped out that day, and you might not be able to see that because you can't see that and you can't see other issues. But I do need assistance from every now and again, and so just you can't always see what's going on with somebody.
So it's an invisible illness.
It can be. It can also be a very visible illness because I do have quite a few scars, and it takes me a very long time to heal. So in that regard, you can see it, but most of the time you can't tell what's going on.
From the naked eye, if people don't see you in a wheelchair, they think you're fine.
Yes, and I could very well be passing out or having a syncopal episode at any moment, and that's very frightening.
True. It scares the heck out of me, I know.
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah. If you could rid yourself of one EDS symptom, which would it be?
I guess the gastrointestinal complications. I've been told that I should really have my colon removed, and that's not something I'm jumping for joy about. So certainly I'd want that corrected. And I guess any of the...
No, one. See, now she's going up. Now she's losing the track.
Well, you know.
All right.
But yeah, okay. All right.
Just one.
All right.
Well, that wraps up today's session. If you have any questions or comments related to today's show, you can contact us at PodcastDX@yahoo.com, through our website, PodcastDX.com, at our Facebook page, at Instagram or Twitter.
And if you have a moment to spare, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes podcast app.
And thank you to all of our followers on Instagram. We really appreciate the feedback. And on Facebook, love all the feedback there as well. And the Twitter followers, too. I have to give you guys a shout out. And to all of our other podcasters out there who have given us praise and assistance and encouragement, we appreciate you guys.
Yes, we are. We're moving